The Redskins and Cowboys have played 6 times on Thanksgiving Day, and the Cowboys have won all 6 matchups. Welcome into Hot Reads, your weekly look at the NFL with Hall of Fame quarterback Troy Aikman, a guy who's always working on Thanksgiving. And Troy, this Redskins-Cowboys matchup looks to be pretty interesting, especially when you look at Tony Romo on one side, Robert Griffin III on the other side, and it feels to me like each team is going to be focused in on stopping the other's quarterback. How are the Redskins going to attack Romo and his somewhat beat-up offensive line, and how are the Cowboys going to attack RG3?
Well, I think it's very similar, for both of these defenses. And of course, with everything that RG3 has done this year, you realize what a real threat he is, with a football in his hands. And so there's an emphasis then on being able to stay home and make sure that he doesn't break off any long runs. He's run the ball well in virtually every ball game. There's just been a couple of games that he's had where he has not really gotten loose. I think with Romo, people don't think of him in the same light as they do Robert Griffin, but you look at the Cowboys and the plays that they've been able to make offensively, a lot of the times it's because he's been able to make someone miss and then get the ball down the field to an open receiver. 2 weeks ago against Philadelphia, they probably don't win the game if he doesn't improvise on third down and avoid a rush and pick up a key first down on a 3rd and long. And so both of these defenses have a real challenge in being able to get pressure on the quarterback, but then when you get there, not overrunning the play, because sometimes these defenders they're so anxious to get there that they come in not quite under control, and these guys are very elusive. So I think that'll be a big storyline in this ball game.
Absolutely, and I know you played in this Redskins-Cowboys rivalry for many, many years. Can you just talk a little bit about the kind of heightened emotions or any kind of heightened sense of aggressiveness in this game between the Redskins and Cowboys?
Well, it's a great rivalry. As we know, I was certainly aware of it when I got to Dallas, and in the early years of my career, the Redskins were really the team to beat within the division. The Giants were right up there as well, but in '91 they won a Super Bowl, and Joe Gibbs was there, and we really felt that they were kind of the standard that we had to measure ourselves against. And then it goes back obviously to the '70s and Roger Staubach and Joe Theismann, and there's a lot of great games between these teams. And what ultimately makes a rivalry what it is when both teams are playing well and the games mean something. And for the most part, that hasn't been the case in recent years. Not that the Cowboys still don't want to beat the Redskins and vice versa, but the intensity of the rivalry, I think, has lost a little bit, but it's starting to get itself back, I believe. The Redskins have had some success against the Cowboys. They've played them pretty well. They're never an easy opponent regardless of how they're playing, and I think the fact that the Redskins are coming off such a big win last week, probably their best game of the season against the Eagles, they come into this game with a lot of confidence. The Cowboys were in a tough game, as we know, last week against Cleveland. Both of these teams with playoff hopes alive, and likely whoever loses will, for the most part, be done for the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting too, when you talk about playing on Thanksgiving Day, you had to do it every year. And I wonder, just from a memory standpoint, what is your favorite Thanksgiving Day memory? And also, do you have any favorite memories from the Redskins-Cowboys rivalry in particular?
Well, one of the most meaningful games that I had on Thanksgiving was against the Redskins. It was my second year. We were coming off a big win the week before and playing Washington at home 4 days later, and we were able to win that game, and it really propelled us onto a nice little win streak that ultimately led to a pretty successful season the following year in '91. So I think back to that game. There's a lot of great memories. We won a lot of those games. My most yards passing in my career was on a Thanksgiving Day game against the Minnesota Vikings. We lost that game, so it wasn't great. But I think the thing that we liked as players was it was a tough, short week to get back and get ready to play, but it helped us that we were playing at home. And then when that game ended, getting a chance to reunite with family and friends following the game, and then having a weekend. There were no Thursday games back then with the exception of the Thanksgiving Day game. And so it afforded us an extended weekend to kind of relax and rest up before we made that last push into the playoffs. Now, of course, there's Thursday games throughout the season, but it was a little different back in the day when I was playing.
Absolutely. Well, listen, man, thank you for your time this week. I know we'll be working again on Thanksgiving, and we'll, of course, be watching, and we'll catch up with you next week.
You bet, Tom. Thanks, bud.